So when it comes to PHI data, right? So most of the time, the customers are worried because their engineers are working from different locations. There are offshore teams, onshore teams. So from the infra perspective and the compliance perspective, what are the different ways to prevent that PHI access from the developers? So for example, because the production, if there's something happens and you need to like reproduce something, some issue from the production, so you have pre-prod environment, which is kind of a replica to the prod, I believe. And then in that case, what are the best practices one should follow to make sure that the PHI is not accessible by the developer?
Yes, yes, Prem. Yeah, this is a good question. So mainly the thing is, we follow certain aspects. So mainly for PHI data, there are two things we have to follow. So encryption at rest and encryption in transit actually. So that means, so when the data is stored in the data stores, so all the data should be encrypted. And even when the data is in transit between the source to the consumer or consumer to the server, or between provider to consumer or consumer to provider, so the data should be encrypted. So the basic things that we have to take care of is while data in transit, encryption at transit, so the data should be, it should transport over to its SSL layer, which is HTTPS. So HTTPS is compulsory there. And even actually when data is at rest, we should follow that data stores. Either this encryption can be applied at the application and that can be stored at the data level, or at the data level itself, there should be an automatic mechanism that encrypts the data. So if we follow if we use this cloud managed services, by default, there are some data stores, not some data stores, even many data stores. So they follow this encryption policy when the data is at rest.
Right.
So that is one thing. And another thing is the custom managed encryption. When the custom managed encryptions at the application level only, we can encrypt the data and then store. That is one thing. So again, when we say custom managed, so there are different approaches for this. One is using the plain typical encryption algorithms, strong encryption algorithms. That is one thing. Or another thing is the tokenization approach actually. And this tokenization approach is predominantly followed in healthcare sector and in banking sector, where the tokenization will what we say is it will actually convert actually the sensitive data into a particular token that cannot be interpreted by any legitimate user or any intruder actually. So this is what we call it as a sensitive data. In healthcare, if we say it is a PHI data, or in banking financial, it is a very financial sensitive data. And this tokenization server, what it will do, there are two parts here. One is converting the PHI data to or sensitive data to token, and then bringing back the token to normal data. That is another thing. Right. So that is one way of which we call it as a tokenization.
So, sorry, go ahead. So I was just asking the related question because AWS has the KMS, right? So this is like kind of a key management service which helps in encryption. So where it's places, like it's a tokenization service, or like which one do you think is like KMS is suitable for?
Yeah, we can leverage at the tokenization service, or even we can leverage if you want to implement our custom encryption algorithm also. So we can actually generate our own keys and take the help of KMS to manage those keys actually.
Right. Okay.
And yeah, so that is what we protect the data at the rest. And the another thing is actually another important factor is actually authorization. Authorization and authentication are most important. So we should allow only the authorized users to access the data. And one more thing is the data should not be the data stores. Whatever the data stores that are there, they should not be exposed directly to the public network. So there should be in a private, for example, if you take an AWS cloud or any cloud, so they should be in private subnet actually. And the data storing this PHI data should be accessible only from the applications. And that too, these applications should be in the virtual private network of the particular organization. And they should not be outside a virtual private network, and they should be in virtual private network, so that the proper only the proper network access or proper whitelisting of the who are supposed to access everything can be controlled from this firewall system. So that is another way. And so there are different ways. And then another way is actually we can actually we can implement the filters of interceptors. Just like in AWS, if you see, we have this kind of shields and everything. So even actually if we do DOS attacks or anything that tries to access this PHI data, so we can prevent this, we can intercept these data and then reject this data without forwarding this request to the application servers.
Right.
So yeah, these are the things. And even there are some things like we can implement even this AI ML approach also to predict actually the faults that are occurring, the future faults that are occurring based on the patterns that we observe when we log using the cloud audit trails or audit logging at the API level actually.
Right. So I think that is like a managed service, right? So AWS.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. That's a good point.
Yeah. So these are the things that we use. And even the compute servers which are actually running, so they should be in a they should be in a virtual private network so that no one can access the compute servers directly. And the compute servers, the data servers, everything should be in private subnet. Only these servers should be accessible either through a normal bastion host from a public subnet or through a load balancer that is hosted as a part of public subnet. So in this way, we can prevent all this data without being taken as a fraud or without being taken as a corrupted in this way.
Right. No, those are all great points. So there are some things definitely like the audit trails are very important, which plays an important role in specifically in healthcare, because I remember there were some incidents where like there are access to S3 objects happened, and then as per the audit, like they want to know who accessed this file, right? So definitely if we don't have that audit trail in place, there can be a issue.